For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, since this is about the subpoenas, let me just first respond. There is, and I'm glad to see my friends on both sides of the aisle, or other side of the aisle, have joined us on this side of the aisle in acknowledging there is a crisis on our border. We have been battling while in the majority. We had a few join the Democrats that didn't want to secure the border, but the failure to secure the border is what has caused this crisis. The failure to, the promises of legalization, amnesty, better living conditions, all these kind of things have continued to lure more and more people here. Now, if we didn't have immunity in Congress, then you could have the survivors of those who have died trying to get here, or the hundreds of thousands potentially that have been personally harmed, raped on the way here, maybe millions. They would have lawsuits against members, but we have immunity. But we know in our evolved system of justice that if you have, for example, a swimming pool in your yard and you fail to put a fence around it or a wall around it, and somebody comes in and is harmed, drowned, they have a potentially major verdict they're going to get against the individuals who refuse to put a wall or a fence around an attractive nuisance. That's the legal term, not mine. That's what has been created by our friends across the aisle, an attractive nuisance that has lured people to their death, to horrible living conditions. And then when this administration is begging for beds to take care of these people, we were told that the crisis created by the refusal to secure our border didn't exist. Oh, it's a manufactured crisis. It doesn't exist. And so I'm glad at least we now have those people that stuck their head in the sand and said there was no crisis, now acknowledging that there is a crisis. But let's be real about what created it and what will solve it, and continuing to encourage people to come from around the world in greater numbers than ever is not the fix. Now, with regard to these subpoenas, if I put my role and robe back on as a judge or chief justice and think about, because that's the way you have to look at these things, will a federal court enforce the subpoenas? You would want to see, what was the process? What is this about? Well, it's about the Mueller Report. Well, what did you do? Well, we first subpoenaed Barr because we said it was a summary. He said it was just to get out the conclusions because he knew the report was coming. But we subpoenaed him, even though that's totally irrelevant if you want to know what the report said. And then we finally got around to having an agreement for Mueller to come testify. But I'm telling you, if you had told me 6 months ago that Chairman Schiff would be able to marginalize the Judiciary Committee and Chairman Nadler, I would say that will never happen. I found otherwise. Our committee has been rolled on our jurisdiction over special counsel. That is our jurisdiction. The members on both sides of the aisle ought to all be able to ask questions and not be marginalized by the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. But we got rolled. And so if you're the court looking to see, because about the only other way to enforce a subpoena and a contempt, it would be if you arrest them and put them in our little cell up here. But otherwise, you got to get a federal court on board here with you. And when they see the process that's been followed here, it doesn't make sense. It makes it clear. Maybe this subpoena is an effort to make it look like we're trying to get back our jurisdiction from the Intelligence Committee. But whatever the case, this is going to damage future majorities, regardless of which side of the aisle. It is a terrible precedent, and that's why these subpoenas should not be coming now. Instead, we ought to be demanding full time to question Mueller about the report, then issue subpoenas if necessary for the witnesses that make up that report if we're not satisfied with Mueller. That would impress a judge, and short of that, these subpoenas will be meaningless. I yield back.